Hello again. If you like movies with witty and fascinating dialogues, then Quentin Tarantino is probably at the top of your list of favorite directors. At first glance, the director violates the axiom of cinema: show, don't tell. To some extent, this is true. But if for many other films, such a number of dialogues would mean imminent death, then Tarantino is able to write a dialogue for 10 minutes and not make the viewer fall asleep. How does he do it? Welcome to About Movies. Today, we will look at how the maestro creates and gives meticulous attention to the dialogues in his movies. But before that, make the red subscription button gray. After all, there is enough blood in Tarantino's films, and you will be the first to learn about the release of new videos. Click on the button and let's get started. Sometimes, it seems that all they do in Quentin Tarantino movies is just talk and talk and talk. At the same time, the dialogues do not look either drawn out or superfluous. What's the secret? Let's try to understand how they work. Tarantino, before writing his first screenplay, said that he was inspired by the work of Elmore Leonard, Richard Pryor, and David Mamet. They formed the vision and style of Quentin. Also, his passion for cinema and the desire to embody scenes from famous films prompted him to independently rewrite all the replicas of the actors when he came home from the movie show. Tarantino tried to remember every word of the scene he liked, and those he forgot he replaced with his own words. And as he got older, he learned to remake the episodes himself, diluting them with colorful dialogues or even writing his own stories. By the way, speaking of dialogues, the films that raised Quentin seemed to him stingy with lines between the characters, which could lift the veil on their lives, show different boundaries of personality, and simply leave the viewer in moral tension, not to let him understand whether this character is completely bad or good. Most of Tarantino's characters do not look like ordinary people. Their bright appearance, grotesque demeanor give them a certain cinematic characteristic. But what are their conversations about? About gastro-linguistic nuances.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese?
What do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
About the hidden meanings of Madonna's songs.
What the fuck was I talking about? So True Blue was about a guy, sensitive girl that meets a nice guy, but like a virgin with a metaphor for big dicks.
About comic books.
Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman.
That is, all these conversations are about casual things which are usually discussed at the next table. More specifically, these dialogues about pop culture which Tarantino constantly reworks. And even when the action of his films takes place at a time when pop culture in the modern sense was not existing, he still finds a way to establish a connection with it. In Django Unchained, the Song of the Nibelungs, known to the 21st century audience, at least thanks to Wagner's legacy, became the unifying plot.
The secret saber?
Quite spectacularly so. He scales the mountain because he's not afraid of it. He slays a dragon because he's not afraid of him. And he walks through hellfire because Brunhilde's worth it.
And in The Hateful Eight, this connection was shown with the help of the story of the letter that Major Warren carries with him.
You know what this is, tramp? It's a letter from Lincoln. Letter from Lincoln to him. They shared a correspondence during the war. They was pen pals, and this is just one of the letters.
These seemingly insignificant conversations do not move the plot of the film, but reveal the personality of the characters and bring the characters closer to the viewer. But let's not only listen to what the characters are talking about, let's also look at how Tarantino shoots the dialogues. First, the lighting. The light source is often not very high above the heroes. This allows to additionally highlight the conversation area in the stage space. Secondly, the camera. If several people are involved in the conversation, the operator can start spinning around them. This is how the space opens up, and this is how operators deal with the static nature of the image. It is also worth noting the details. In this movie, you can see Quentin's particular love for Uma Thurman's feet. The director himself admitted that he considers them elegant and attractive, and therefore often likes to shoot close-ups of her legs. Another way to make a conversation visually dynamic is to change angles and the size of the frames. Here, for example, is another dialogue from Pulp Fiction. At first, the characters keep their distance and the camera captures them up to the waist. When the distance between the characters is reduced, the conversation becomes more intimate, and Tarantino moves to close-ups. When the words end and there is silence, the camera moves from the space between the characters to look at them from the side, not together, but separately.
Don't you hate that?
Hey, what?
Uncomfortable silences. Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
And finally, the set design. Sometimes, to make the dialogue more dynamic, Tarantino divides it into a series of mise-en-scenes, which gradually change from one to another. For example, the big conversation at the very beginning of Pulp Fiction is built on the constant movement of the characters. Here, they drive in the car. We've already heard about the burgers, and they take their weapons out of the trunk and head towards the building. They go to deal with debtors, and then they're discussing the boss and his wife, Mia.
Mia. How did Marcellus and her meet?
I don't know. However people meet people. She used to be an actress.
They stop at the front door to pay their attention to the problems of TV series production.
Well, the way they pick TV shows is they make one show. That show's called a pilot.
They remember a colleague on the way to the elevator.
Marcellus fucked him up good. Word around the campfire is it was on account of Marcellus Wallace's wife.
They have a little conversation in the elevator.
So what'd he do, fucker?
No, nothing that bad.
Well, then what then?
Gave her a foot massage.
Stopping from time to time, they slowly walk through the corridors to the right door.
Now look, maybe your method of massage differs from mine, but you know, touching his wife's feet and sticking your tongue in the holiest of holies ain't the same fucking ballpark. It ain't the same league. It ain't even the same fucking sport.
Already seemingly having reached the goal, he steps aside to finish.
I ain't saying it's right, but you saying a foot massage don't mean nothing. I'm saying it does. And look, I given 1 million ladies 1 million foot massages, and they all meant something. We act like they don't, but they do. I mean, that's what's so fucking cool about them.
And finally, they return to the door.
What's her name again?
Mia.
Mia.
Why are you so interested in Big Man's wife?
Well, he's going out of town in Florida, and he asked me if I'd take care of her while he's gone.
Take care of her?
No, man. Just take her out, you know. Show her a good time, make sure she don't get lonely.
You're gonna be taking Mia Wallace out on a date?
It is not a date.
During this one conversation, Tarantino manages to move from a discussion of French McDonald's to a plot-relevant introduction of the characters that the viewer of the film has not yet seen on the screen. In the course of the scene, we learn that Marcellus Wallace is a dangerous man, and the limits of what is permissible in dealing with someone else's wife are a reason for discussion. And at the same time, the director does not let the viewer get bored for 7.5 minutes of dialogue. And it is also impossible to get bored when you watch our detailed analysis of the life and creative path of Quentin on our second channel. This is the story of how an ordinary guy from Harbor City became a true legendary director. Hurry to be one of the first to watch the video. Click on the pop-up card in the corner or find the link in the description. It's worth your time. Let's move on. Now, let's see how Tarantino's directing techniques work in another very vivid opening scene of Inglourious Basterds. SS officer Hans Landa wants to find out the location of Dreyfus, a Jewish family. Farmer Perrier Lapetite tries not to give them away. If their dialogue was filmed according to 180-degree rule, it would seem incredibly long and boring, because it lasts for as long as 16 minutes. This is how Tarantino handles this timing. The scene begins with Landa sitting down at a table, which as you can see is lit from above, and then he drinks a glass of milk. He does it confidently, immediately showing that he is the power here. It is worth noting that Tarantino often uses food to tell about the relationship of the characters. Take for example Pulp Fiction, the scene where Jules tries a burger from one of the cooks he and Vincent came to punish. This gesture immediately makes it clear who is the boss. In the same Pulp Fiction, in the moment when Mia and Vincent are sitting in a restaurant, Vincent uses a fork and a knife, but Mia is not shy to eat with her hands. He is careful, but she is the mistress of the situation. Remember the moment Jackie Brown meets Ordell? Ordell is a gangster, but from the way Jackie drinks wine and eats popcorn, it is clear that she is in control of the situation. and there are many such examples. However, let's go back to the scene. So La Petite sits down with Landa. The farmer's daughters go out. The heroes are left alone. And Landa suggests La Petite switch into English. We and Monsieur La Petite should be misled by Landa's extreme, even excessive politeness, but this politeness is an illusion. Tarantino gives this trait to many of his characters as villains like Landa, Jules from Pulp Fiction,
Me and Vincent caught you boys at breakfast. Sorry about that. Did you have it?
Bill from Kill Bill,
I suppose the idea is we cross Hanzo swords. Am I right?
Oren from the same movie,
I encourage you from time to time, and always in a respectful manner, to question my logic.
Osvaldo Mowbray from The Hateful Eight, and so on. But Tarantino does it not only with villains. Dr. Schultz from Django Unchained is also grotesquely suave.
And as if on cue, here comes the sheriff.
In Tarantino's movie, politeness turns into something you don't expect from a tactful character over and over again. But let's go back to the farm again.
Before the occupation, there were 4 Jewish families in this area, old dairy farmers like yourself.
Landa asks questions, keeps notes, but nothing really dangerous seems to be happening. The interrogator looks like a strange bureaucrat. The farmer feels a little more confident and lights up his pipe.
So the rumors you've heard have been of escape?
Oui. Yes.
Here, it must be said that in general, quite a lot of people in Tarantino's movies smoke. In every film, you can find a scene with a cigarette. By the way, an interesting fact, in almost every picture, Quentin uses and advertises cigarettes of the Red Apple brand, which has become kind of a feature of his films. Smoking works the same way as eating. You need to pay attention to who smokes and how he or she does it. Here's a slaver planter, Calvin Candy. He's confident and a little unstable. He's a threat. In his hands, we see an eccentric mouthpiece. Esteban Vajallo, to whom the heroine from Kill Bill came, behaves in a similar way. He is also confident and prefers to smoke with a cigarette holder. He's also kind of a slave trader running a local brothel. Mr. Wolf lights up a cigarette at Jimmy's house in Pulp Fiction. You don't have to hear their conversation to know how confident Wolf is here. We return to Landa and La Petite. The farmer's facial expression has become a little more confident. He leans towards the SS man and remembers, on the record, the safe information about the wanted family. At this time, the camera starts moving around the table.
Amos was 9 or 10.
Shoshana was 18 or 19. I'm not really sure.
And describing a semicircle, it rushes down to show us that the Jewish family which is being discussed is right under the speakers all the time. The tension arises. But it seems that the interrogation is over, and soon you will be able to breathe easily. One more glass of milk and it is done. Goodbye. La Petite doesn't almost hide his animosity, lights up his pipe again, and leans back in his chair. Landa looks like a smug buffoon who boasts about his nickname and his success in hunting Jews. La Petite is forced to listen to him talk about rats. And at the end of this story, Tarantino inserts a visual joke. Just look at this pipe of Landa's. How can he be a villain? However, La Petite already understands that he is the real bad guy. Here, we can notice Tarantino's subtext. It is an integral part of the entire cinematography, but in the case of Tarantino, it has a significant meaning. To figure it out, let's look at the example of the scene in Inglourious Basterds, where Hans Landa orders milk to Shoshana. He already knows that she ran away from him being at the La Petite dairy farm. Without the subtext, this scene wouldn't be so intense. And another important tool that Tarantino uses to create great dialogues is suspense, an artistic technique, when the viewer is in a tense expectation of something terrible. There are many ways to create suspense in a film: camera movement, editing, light, but Tarantino masterfully uses dialogue, most often one-on-one. With their help, he creates tension and the effect of waiting in the scene. In the same Inglourious Basterds, we can see this in the bar scene. Tarantino throws this bomb and makes the audience wait for the stopwatch to reach 0. Lieutenant Archie Hickox, a British spy in the guise of a German officer, orders 3 glasses of whiskey, but does not raise his fingers in German. Major Hellstrom notices this and it becomes clear that the game is over. But not so immediately. Tarantino lets the moment last. The audience knows that Hellstrom has exposed Hickox, but neither Hickox nor the others realize it. This creates an unthinkable tension that lasts until the bloody shootout. Let's move on to the equally interesting movie Reservoir Dogs. The film shows us Tarantino's vision of gangsters. Each character has its own feature, but we will focus only on some of them. It will just suffice to mention Mr. White's reflection about tipping and waitresses.
Waitressing is the #1 occupation for female non-college graduates in this country. It's the one job basically any woman can get and make a living on.
He appears to us so noble in the future.
He's a good kid. I understand you're hot, you're super fucking pissed. We're all real emotional, but you're barking up the wrong tree. I know this man, he wouldn't do that.
Mr. Pink immediately comes out as a critic of double standards and draws a very interesting parallel with McDonald's.
Working at McDonald's, but you don't feel the need to tip them, do you? Well, why not? They're serving you food. But no, society says, don't tip these guys over here, but tip these guys over here. That's bullshit.
Pink is reasonable and thinks soberly. He analyzes, not blindly blames everyone around him. Just look at the scene in the warehouse to make sure of it.
Now he knows A, your name, B, what you look like, C, where you're from, and D, what your specialty is. They're not gonna have to show him a hell of a lot of pictures for him to pick you out.
A really interesting character is Mr. Orange. He looks like he's not comfortable in this company. The man is silent and just watches the others. This is shown best in the scene about Madonna's song. While the others exchange words, he watches them hesitantly, as if he would like to escape, but something stops him. Tarantino turns the exchange of words into a dynamic attraction, using every element of the film language. You never know what the conversation will turn out to be: a ruined breakfast, a visual reference to Hong Kong action movies, or a change of subject. And finally, we are interested in your opinion. What Quentin Tarantino movies do you like and why? Write about it in the comments. This has been About Movies. Don't forget to like this video, and very soon we will release a new video. Thank you and see you soon.